They weren't built for drag strips, but for raised eyebrows. These Fairlanes didn't just bend design rules, they vaporized them. Bubble roofs, retractable hardtops, jet-age fins, and chrome access turned family Fords into rolling UFOs. You've heard of muscle, now meet the misfits, Ford's weirdest Fairlanes ever made. When people talk about Fairlanes, they picture basic family coupes or respectable drag machines. But buried in Ford's archives and forgotten garages are 9 cars that defied every styling convention of their era. These weren't your neighbor's Fairlane. They were customs, prototypes, and one-off oddities that looked like they landed from Mars. From glass bubbles to retractable tricks and alien rear ends, these machines blurred the line between Detroit steel and sci-fi. Welcome to Muscle Cars Revolution, where today we uncover the Fairlanes so weird they didn't just shock car shows, they confused history books. Top 1, 1963 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt lightweight prototype. Ford didn't just build a Fairlane. In 1963, they built a ballistic weapon disguised as one. The Thunderbolt prototype wasn't some street machine, it was a factory freak born in Ford's skunk works and disguised in plain metal. One look under the hood, and the rules of drag racing bent like sheet metal. The base was humble, a mid-size Fairlane 500 two-door post sedan. But this was no grocery gutter. Ford's engineers yanked out the interior, acid-dipped the body panels, and shaved weight wherever possible. The front bumper? Fiberglass. Windows? Plexiglass. Radio and heater? Deleted. Why? Because the mission was one thing: annihilate the NHRA super stock class. Under that lightweight hood sat the 427 cubic inch high riser V8, producing a factory-rated 425 horsepower, but rumored to push well over 500 horsepower. Paired with a 4-speed top-loader manual and 4.44 rear gears, the car could catapult from 0 to 60 in just 5 seconds and blaze the quarter mile in the 11 SA number, unheard of for a street-legal Ford. But this wasn't even a production model yet. Only a few hand-built prototypes were created in Ford's experimental garage, some wearing primer gray paint, others just bare-bones white. No VINs, no window stickers, just raw, unfiltered engineering mayhem built to test the dragstrip boundaries. Quietly and off the record. Because these were prototypes, most were either crushed, repurposed, or cannibalized for parts. Survivors? Nearly extinct. A confirmed, authentic prototype today, if it exists at all, would fetch well over $250,000, possibly more depending on provenance. It's the holy grail for Ford drag historians. But while this prototype exploded myths about what a Fairlane could be, Ford wasn't done. What they unleashed next wasn't just a rumor, it was a fire-breathing production version that burned rubber straight into NHRA history. Top 2 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt production drag car. The prototype was terrifying, but in 1964, Ford actually sold it to the public, sort of. The Thunderbolt wasn't a production car, it was a street-legal warhead, delivered through dealerships. You could order one if you were a racer, had connections, and didn't mind your Fairlane coming without a warranty. Visually, it still wore a Fairlane badge, but everything else screamed purpose-built weapon. Ford took the formula from the 1963 lightweight prototype and dialed it up. Acid-dipped body panels, plexiglass side windows, aluminum hood, fenders, bumpers. The goal? Shed every ounce possible. Under the hood, the mighty 427 CI high-riser V8, rated at 425 horsepower, mated to a 4-speed top-loader or optional automatic, with a 4.56 Detroit locker rear. This thing wasn't meant to cruise, it was meant to launch. 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, quarter mile in the low 11s, with trap speeds over 120 miles per hour. Inside, it was nearly barren. No heater, no radio, no sound deadening, just lightweight bucket seats, a basic dash, and a giant tack bolted where the clock should have been. Some even came with manual choke levers for cold starts. Pure race car stuff in a factory shell. Only 100 Thunderbolts were built, 49 automatics and 51 4-speeds, making them some of the rarest and most bizarre factory-backed drag cars ever sold. NHRA rules demanded at least 100 units for superstock legality, so Ford built just enough to dominate. Today, surviving Thunderbolts fetch $250,000, $500,000 depending on condition and documentation. They're unicorns with VINs, anomalies that blurred the line between streetcar and race car. But while the Thunderbolt was a purpose-built missile, Ford's weird streak wasn't over. Because next came a Fairlane that ditched fiberglass for something far more absurd: a retractable steel roof that folded like origami. Top 3 1957 Ford Fairlane 500 Skyliner retractable hardtop. Imagine this. You're pulling into the diner in a sleek 50s coupe. Then, at the flick of a switch, the entire steel roof folds into the trunk like a giant mechanical origami trick. No soft top, no manual labor, just gears, motors, and wires dancing in perfect sync. That's the magic and madness of the 1957 Fairlane Skyliner. At first glance, it looks like a typical, long, low Fairlane 500 with fins, chrome galore, and that massive galactic grille. But the roof mechanism changed everything. Ford stuffed 600 feet of wiring, 10 solenoids, 7 electric motors, and 4 lift jacks into the trunk just to make the steel top disappear. It wasn't just ambitious, it bordered on science fiction. Inside, the Skyliner offered bench seats wrapped in premium vinyl, a sweeping dash with deep gauges, and optional push-button AM radio. Most buyers opted for the 312C Thunderbird V8, which produced 245 horsepower, enough to move the nearly 4,000 Levy cruiser from 0 to 60 in about 10 seconds. But all that space-age tech had a cost, literally and logistically. The complex roof mechanism devoured trunk space, leaving room for little more than a briefcase. And while it dazzled crowds, the system was notorious for breakdowns. A misaligned switch or failed motor could leave you stuck, half-roofed, in a rainstorm. Despite the issues, Ford sold 20,766 Skyliners in 1957 alone, and it remained in production through 1959. Collectors today prize them not just for their rarity, but for their unapologetic weirdness, a true relic of 1950 optimism, when engineers believed anything was possible, even if it was absurd. But if retractable steel roofs weren't strange enough, just wait until you meet the next Fairlane, where chrome crowns and bubble glass turned a family coupe into a spaceship from the jet age. Top 4 1956 Ford Fairlane Crown Victoria Bubbletop. It looked like a space capsule dipped in chrome, with its signature bubble roof and stainless steel tiara arching across the cabin. The 1956 Ford Fairlane Crown Victoria wasn't just flashy, it was otherworldly. Park this next to a 56 Chevy Bel Air, and it didn't just stand out, it beamed in from another dimension. The Crown Victoria was Ford's attempt to dominate the mid-1000, 950 style wars. Building on the success of the base Fairlane, the Crown Vic added a dramatic wraparound windshield, a transparent plexiglass roof insert in the Skyline variant, and Ford's infamous chrome basket handle across the roof. This wasn't a coupe, it was architecture on wheels. Inside, it delivered on the promise of flash: two-toned vinyl bench seats, full-length door trim, dash chrome so reflective it blinded drivers on sunny days. Standard features included power steering, optional four-way power seats, and a push-button AM radio straight from the Jetsons. Beneath the hood sat a 292 cu in Y-block V8, making 202 horsepower, respectable for 1956, and paired to a Ford-O-Matic automatic transmission. But the bubble roof wasn't just for looks. In warm climates, the plexiglass insert turned the cabin into a solar oven. No AC, you'd roast. And the chrome arch, it blocked tall passengers' views and made car washes a nightmare. Despite these quirks, it carved its own cult status. Only 9,209 Crown Victorias were produced in 1956, far fewer with the rare plexiglass roof option. Survivors today fetch serious money, especially those in pastel tones with factory glass tops. At Barrett-Jackson, one restored Bubbletop fetched nearly $85,000, proof that this UFO-styled cruiser has landed firmly in collector heaven. And just when you thought Ford's weirdest bubble roof was behind you, wait until you meet the Fairlane that ditched hardtops entirely and folded its roof into the trunk. Top 5 1955 Ford Beatnik Bubbletop Fairlane Custom. What happens when a 1955 Ford Fairlane gets abducted by aliens and sent back, dipped in chrome, stretched to absurd proportions, and topped with a full plexiglass dome. You get the Beatnik Bubbletop, arguably the most outrageous custom Fairlane ever built and a rolling tribute to intergalactic design madness. Originally a 1955 Ford, this wasn't a concept from Ford's design studios, it was the mad creation of customizer Gary "Chopit" Fiotto. Starting with a rusted-out Fairlane body, he transformed it into a jet-age fantasy. The nose was reshaped, the rear widened, fenders flared, and the roofline completely removed to accommodate a massive, hand-blown bubble canopy. Inside, the wildness continued. The Beatnik's cabin resembled a Vegas lounge trapped in a lava lamp. Pearl-white vinyl bucket seats, pink metallic trim, bubble gauges, and a rear bench under the dome. It had zero visibility, no climate control, and every inch screamed showpiece over functionality. But here's the kicker, it actually runs. The Beatnik is powered by a Ford 460 CU in V8 mated to a C6 automatic transmission, producing an estimated 375 horsepower. Sure, you'd never race it, but if you did, the massive powertrain would lurch it forward in surreal silence, like a UFO taxiing for takeoff. As a one-off build, it's technically priceless. Only one Beatnik Bubbletop was ever created, making it rarer than any Ford concept or drag car. When it crossed the auction block in 2006, it fetched a jaw-dropping $200,000. Since then, it's been featured in every custom show and hot rod magazine imaginable, still the reigning king of Bubbletops. But even this space cruiser can't out-weird what Ford actually put into production in 1957. A Fairlane that could fold its entire steel roof into the trunk at the push of a button. Top 6 1966 Ford Fairlane GT A390 Fastback. It looked like a gentleman's cruiser, but under that long Fastback roofline, the 1966 Fairlane GTA was packing heat. Built at the height of Detroit's horsepower war, this was Ford's quiet missile, aimed straight at the GTO, but dressed in a business suit. Part of the revamped fifth-generation Fairlane lineup, the GTA was a step beyond the regular GT. It came standard with Ford's Sport Shift C6 automatic, hence the A. It wasn't just branding. This was one of the first Fairlanes purpose-built for performance, with revised suspension, special badging, red-line tires, and dual exhausts tucked clean under a factory GT rear valance. Inside, it had bucket seats, a center console, wood-grain appliques, and optional rally instrumentation. Outside, the Fastback profile flowed smoothly into a squared rear end framed by quad taillights. It wasn't loud, it was sharp, like a muscle car in evening wear. Power came from the 390 cubic inch FE V8, pumping out 335 horsepower and 427 pound-feet of torque. Mated to the C6 and a 3.25 rear gear, the GTA could do 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds. Not bad for a car tipping the scales near 3,600 pounds. With the right tires and open roads, it had no problem shaming 389-pound Pontiacs at the light. Only around 33,000 Fairlane GTs were made in 1966, but far fewer were true GT. As with factory air, power disc brakes, and performance rear axles, making properly equipped survivors increasingly rare. These cars flew under the radar for years, overshadowed by Mustangs and Galaxies. But today, GT, as in original spec with Marti reports, are climbing in value, with clean examples fetching $45,000, $60,000. And yet, not every oddball Fairlane followed the Fastback formula. Some ditched the roof entirely and took weird into convertible territory, topped with gleaming chrome and fins sharp enough to cut glass. Top 7. 1965 Ford Fairlane 500 Custom Fastback. From the front, it looked like a mild-mannered midsize, but one glance at the rear roofline, and you'd swear Ford had borrowed the silhouette from a spaceship. The 1965 Fairlane 500 Custom Fastback was part muscle car, part aerospace experiment, and 100% forgotten. This Fairlane wasn't a helo car, and it wasn't a drag strip monster. It was built for families, priced for the middle class, and sold as a sensible alternative to the bulkier Galaxie. But for one brief moment in 1965, Ford gave it a sloping roofline that looked like it belonged in a wind tunnel test, not on Main Street. The Fastback design was short-rimmed, but it stood out among the traditional notchbacks. The 500 custom trim added chrome trim, full wheel covers, and a hint of upscale luxury inside. Two-tone vinyl bench seats, wood grain applique on the dash, and optional factory air conditioning. Under the hood, options ranged from a pedestrian 200 CI inline-six to a punchier 289 CI V8, pushing up to 225 horsepower. Not a race car, but enough to give it some bite when paired with the optional 4-speed manual. The real oddity was its identity crisis. It looked fast, but wasn't. It looked sporty, but was aimed at commuters. Few buyers understood what it was trying to be, and because it didn't fit any neat category, neither full muscle nor full family cruiser, it was quickly dropped from memory. Only a limited number of Fastback Fairlanes were produced in 1965, approximately 29,168 units of body code confirmation. But the truly weird custom Fastback variants are believed to be fewer than 100 known builds. Today, well-preserved survivors with period-correct features sell for $70,000+, especially when originality is verifiable. And just when you thought the Fairlane's rooflines couldn't get stranger, Ford decided to make one disappear entirely. Top 8. 1959 Ford Fairlane 500 Galaxie Skyliner. A convertible? Sure. A hardtop? Also yes. The 1959 Fairlane 500 Galaxie Skyliner wasn't just two cars in one, it was a shape-shifting marvel from the atomic age. While most cars picked a form and stuck with it, this Ford dared to bend metal and logic. At first glance, the Skyliner looked like any other long, low-slung cruiser from Detroit's chrome obsession era. Dual headlights, massive tail fins, stainless trim that ran the full body length. Pure 50s theater. But the magic wasn't in the flash. It was under the rear deck. Push a button and nearly a dozen electric motors sprang to life. The entire steel roof folded backward and vanished into the trunk. No canvas, no manual latches. Ford's hideaway hardtop was years ahead of its time. Inside, bench seats front and rear were dressed in two-tone vinyl, with space for 6 adults and every grocery bag in the state. The roof mechanism alone weighed nearly 600 pounds. Add the 352 CI Thunderbird Special V8, rated at 300 horsepower, and you had a car that looked like a parade float, but moved like a sleeper. 0 to 60? Around 10 seconds. Not fast for a muscle car, but blistering for a retractable spaceship. Only 12,915 Skyliners were built in 1959. Its final year. The cost and complexity were just too much for most buyers, and Ford shelved the concept entirely. But today, collectors crave them for their Rube Goldberg absurdity and unmatched visual drama. Restored examples routinely sell for $70,000+, assuming the top still works. But if you think a folding steel roof was the strangest trick Ford ever hid in a Fairlane shell, wait until you meet a custom UFO convertible that never left Earth orbit. Top 9. 1966 Ford Fairlane GT Convertible UFO Custom. From the front, it looked like a regular drop-top muscle cruiser, but circle around the rear and it resembled something NASA forgot to launch. The 1966 Fairlane GT Convertible UFO Custom didn't just look weird, it made bystanders question whether it was even street legal or street-born. The base car started as a 1966 Fairlane GT Convertible, already a respectable mid-size muscle car. It came factory-equipped with a 390 cubic inch V8, good for 335 horsepower, and a 4-speed top-loader manual. Dual exhausts and GT badging gave it plenty of presence, but this one wasn't left stock for long. A builder in California decided the Fairlane needed to look like it came from outer space. The rear quarter panels were radically reshaped to house oversized jet-style taillights. A transparent bubble fairing was grafted behind the rear seat, replacing the standard convertible boot. Chrome nacelles and sculpted fins were welded onto the decklid, pure George Barris inspiration. The paint? A metallic violet to blue fade with glow-in-the-dark pinstriping. Even the wheels were swapped for turbine blade alloys. The real shock came when the owner activated the rear lighting. LED rings inside the taillight pods pulsed in sync with engine RPM, giving the illusion of liftoff. At night, underglow lit the pavement in eerie green. The car still ran the stock 390 and could do 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds, but no one remembered the speed. They remembered the spectacle. Only one of these customs was ever built, and it became a fixture at SoCal car shows in the late 70s. While it vanished for decades, it reemerged recently at an auction in Arizona, fetching $95,000 for its bizarre design alone. It wasn't just a Fairlane, it was rolling performance art. And so ends our journey through Ford's strangest creations. Unless, of course, there's still one lurking in a barn somewhere, waiting to light up the night like a landing beacon from another world. You've just witnessed 9 Fairlanes that broke every design rule Ford ever followed. Cars that were too weird for mass production but too wild to forget. From factory freaks to handmade customs, they proved the Fairlane nameplate could be more than safe and sensible. Which one blew your mind the most? Drop your pick in the comments, and if you know of a stranger Fairlane hidden in a barn or cruising your town, we want to hear about it. Hit subscribe for more forgotten legends and misunderstood muscle right here on Muscle Cars Revolution, because weird cars make unforgettable stories.